Hi, my name is Lorena, and I am a trainer with Synergy Behavior Solutions, and today I'm going to be talking about a particular cued behavior that is one of my favorite things to teach any dog. I tend to specifically work with dogs that maybe have some behavior struggles, like maybe they lunge and bark at people or dogs or kids or the random leaf on the sidewalk. Maybe they have some fearful or nervous type behaviors, or maybe they're just dogs that need to build a little bit stronger relationship and engagement with their humans. And so this behavior I have found to be one of the most... Hi Sylvia, thanks for joining us. I've found to be one of the most valuable and useful and versatile behaviors in terms of boosting really great personality concepts in our dogs, in terms of building really great relationship, and teaching a behavior that has so much value for our dogs. Thank you, Jenna. I like this shirt a lot too. It's made by Wolf Culture. Go check them out. I'm sure that you know them. And so I want to talk a little bit first before I demonstrate the behavior with my dog Summer here, laying down, chilling, being a really good boy, is that I taught this behavior first to my my pit bull, you maybe have seen in some previous lives before. She is a dog that tends to struggle with some pretty intense like dog reactivity and dog aggressive type behaviors. And middle is something she is obsessed with as a behavior. The behavior I'm talking about is called middle or peekaboo or a variety of other things that people like to call it. But the ultimate behavior is that your dog comes usually from behind and enters between your legs and then stations between your knees. And so the stationing can kind of look however you want it to look, but there's multiple levels to this behavior. And so even if your dog maybe already knows peekaboo as a cue, as just like a fun trick, I would like to talk about some ways that you can kind of level up with this particular behavior and use it in multiple contexts. So, in a strategic way. So the other thing that I want to say before I kind of jump into why I like this behavior so much and show you how to teach your dog how to do it and how you might use it out and about in the real world, I will say that we are offering a reactive rover class that will include this behavior in it. It's a 4-week class and it starts tonight. You can register through the link on our Facebook page. We are also offering a reactive dog tips and tricks seminar. So I'm teaching just like a webinar, just a 1-hour thing on 4 or 5 behaviors, cued behaviors, that are not only fun enrichment for your dog, but are really, really useful behaviors for boosting personality concepts and like tools and skills for managing reactivity in your dog. So please check out that webinar if you're interested in learning some of those tips and doing some new fun tricks with your dog that you can actually use out in the world for management and for training. And then also, we are offering, since this is about your legs and doing fun things with proximity and body play with your dog, we're also offering a webinar called 6 Legs, 6 Tricks, and that is being taught by Sarah McLeodry, another trainer with Synergy, and she's going to be going over 6 different tricks associated with having your dog in close proximity, maybe weaving through your legs, doing middle, and a variety of other really fun behaviors. What I really like about those kinds of cued behaviors is that they're not just shake or roll over. They're not just tricks, and not that shake and roll over, I'm not trash talking those behaviors at all, but I like behaviors that involve engagement and proximity and coming in close to your body with your dog. Just the very act of proximity in itself can be pretty challenging for some dogs. And so this is why I really like to teach middle to a lot of my clients when they're working with dogs that maybe have some behavior struggles or are a little bit fearful. And I find that a lot of dogs who maybe think their dogs are pretty confident will suddenly try to teach middle and start running into some problems because their dog is a little bit nervous about going underneath your legs, maybe even nervous about coming in close to you, potentially because they've had some negative experiences when they've been in close proximity, which is something that just happens when we have dogs. So maybe we've like grabbed our dogs, we've accidentally tripped over them, accidentally stepped on them, etc., etc. And so those kinds of things can be pretty lasting memories for our dogs in terms of nervousness about being in close. So, the ultimate goal with middle is that I like to have this behavior be so strong and with such incredible value for our dogs that I also like to use it as like an alternative recall. So my dog definitely has more value for her middle cue, my other dog, than she does for her recall cue. Recall is very much like, I'm going to look at you and see if it's worth it to leave this squirrel alone and come to you. And most of the time I win, but not all of the time. But if I ask for middle, it's like pretty much 99% accuracy that she's going to whip around and come back to that location because she loves it. So Summer has not had a really strong history of reinforcement with middle, and so we are going to thank you from Kona's Touch. I also like this shirt. And so I actually chose to work with him a little bit because we've only recently been starting to build a lot more value in this behavior for him. And yesterday and the other day, he offered it just on his own for the first time, which is very cute because he's 100 pounds and very large. And it's nice to see him having a little bit more confidence in terms of that proximity. He's a dog that historically has not really liked to like push past things or go underneath things. He's definitely a little bit worried about stuff moving around him or over him. And so a lot of the games and the exercises and training that I do with him is just a little bit of like, let's push your boundaries a little bit. So Summer is a 10-year-old St. Bernard mix, and he has recently learned that middle is a pretty good place to be. And so I'm going to show you how I would lure this behavior and start building some value for it just as a game initially. And one of the things that I find with this behavior, and with actually coaching people through any new behavior they're teaching their dog, is that pay really, really close attention to what your goal is throughout each of these micro interactions with your dog. I see so many people putting way too much pressure on their dog to do the thing. They're so focused on the end goal of like, my dog needs to come between my legs, and they need to do it on cue, and we have to achieve that, or I'm a failure as a dog owner, or whatever is going through their heads. And I just want you to know that when you're teaching your dog a new behavior, and when you're training, you are either paying into your relationship with your dog or you are taking out of it. And sometimes we can be a little bit punishing to our dogs without intending to. And I think middle is one of those things that I see that happening a lot. So I really encourage you to think about appreciating the process and rewarding your dog for trying something new. You might not think it's a big deal for you to lean over and put some food by your foot, but for your dog, they're like, what the heck are you doing? That's a really novel thing. Why do you want me to come toward your feet? For some dogs, that's kind of intense. And I find that it can be really, you can shut your dog down really easily if you try to force them into it. I taught a class recently, and I was teaching middle. It was an online class, and one of my students was grabbing her dog and pulling him between her knees, which, like, I know that she really wanted him to accomplish the goal, and I know that she wanted him to get to middle because she was excited about the behavior, but she was forgetting about his experience in that interaction, which then, of course, made the next time she tried to get him into middle, he was like, I'm not coming in because you're gonna pull me into the space I'm not comfortable with. So one thing that I want to use this as an opportunity to, like, preach about a little bit is, my background is in working in like wilderness leadership and wilderness guiding, and we do a lot of helping people and kids and teens navigate experiences that are new and stressful, and that's how learning happens, is through activating stress and creating neural pathways, right? The thing is that there's this analogy that we use in wilderness leadership that is red light, yellow light, and green light. And green light is kind of like when you're sitting in class and you're like a little bit bored and your mind's kind of drifting and your eyes are half closed and you're like, yeah, I'm here, but like not really paying attention, not really interested, not really engaged. Like Summer right now, although he is staring at me lovingly, he's like pretty much green zone. He's like, I'm chilled, whatever. I think most dogs actually live in the green zone. Their lives are kind of boring. Most of the dogs I see don't have a lot of, hi Anita, hi Kristen, don't have a lot of enrichment, don't have a lot of stimulation, are not pushed outside of their comfort zones. One of my friends, who's also an amazing dog trainer, recently said that a lot of dogs don't know how to sniff anymore, and they have to be taught how to do that, and that like hurts my heart and makes me sad. There's so many things that dogs can and should do and that they love to do. Every dog would love to work and to learn and to be enriched. We just have to sometimes help them through that process. And so most dogs sit there bored in the green zone, especially in interactions with their owners. It's predictable, it's kind of boring, it's all the same. And then that same dog often is occasionally triggered into the red zone. So that's where we get fight or flight. This is way too scary, way too intense. There's no learning happening. The front part of the brain that does all of the reasoning and learning has been shut down, and I'm just lunging and barking, or I'm cowering in fear, or whatever. And we don't really want, if we want true learning to happen, we have to navigate how do we achieve that yellow zone of activation, a little bit of stress, a little bit of stimulation. That is where learning happens. That is where it's like, I'm engaged, I'm a little bit stretched. This is like a little bit past my boundary of comfort, but this is where learning happens, and this is where transformation takes place. And so I really like to use fun behaviors to start to help clients and their dogs navigate that space. What does that look like on a typical day for you and for your dog? And it changes depending on your mental and emotional state and your dog's mental and emotional state. So we're going to see where Summer is at right now in terms of his sort of like, where is his yellow zone and how is he feeling about it today? And I'm going to start that by calling him over, and I'm going to start luring this behavior. My ultimate goal is just having him come between my legs and hang out there. So I like to start with the dog in front of me for this. I'm going to toss a treat out, get him interested, and then I'm actually going to bring him, I'm going to feed him on every single part of this trick. bunch of times. So building value for the position, bring him a little bit closer, there we go. So that it's really nice to be just right here between my legs. And he was a little bit worried. I would say in the past he's been a lot more worried about that particular position. And now I'm going to bring him around my other leg. It's just a game. I will say the mechanics involved in this game can be pretty challenging for the average human to learn. And that's because when I play this with a new dog, I will have treats in both hands so that the luring is a little bit easier and that I can do this connection thing. Hi, buddy. This connection thing that happens, because what often happens is this. You try to lure and then you try to do this and the dog comes back around the front. And so I really like to pair my hands in between my legs and bring the dog through with my other hand. So pairing, got him on the end of my hand, bring him around, and then I'm just going to feed in position a few times. For summer, I'll usually ask for a down because he is quite a large dog. Now I'm going to bring him around my other leg. And again, feed, feed, feed. So, okay, free. So for nervous dogs, or for dogs that are not quite sure about coming between your legs, which you'll know as soon as you carefully observe your dog for any stress signals. Summer is clearly very engaged. His ears are up, his tail's wagging, he's like yellow zone for sure. But if his ears were back, or if you're moving a little slower, or maybe slicking to the ground when I tried to lure him, I would scale it way, way back. So the way that that looks for those dogs is I don't feed them directly to their mouth. That can be a lot of pressure for some dogs, actually. And I will actually lay a little path around my leg and give the dog the opportunity to just eat treats right here between my legs. Just lots and lots of food, and then maybe he's gonna look up at me. Yay! I'll toss a little treat out and he gets a little break. And then the next one, just tossing, creating a little trail of breadcrumbs. Yes, good boy. And I'm letting him make the choice how much he wants to interact and move with it. Ready? Okay, go. Like, where's the treats? All right, I'm gonna grab one more and do a little bit more demoing of some next levels for this game. So if your dog is already a middle master, actually I want to say one more thing about dogs that are a little bit nervous. If your dog is like, heck to the no, I do not want to go between your legs, that's way too much, I would like for you to start with a little bit of just having your dog move between your legs and having some fun with it. It's okay for just a brief second for them to be going between your legs and having a good time with it, just a few repetitions of that, and start that for a few days before you try to bring them back into that slightly higher pressure zone. So, the way that I really like, I know, buddy, come here. It's like, what do you want me to do? So Summer actually is a dog that gets activated pretty quickly, like almost toward that red zone, like he's chomping treats now, so I keep games much, much shorter than this typically with him. He gets way overexcited. So maybe I'll try and bring the arousal down a little bit by feeding a little bit slower. I really like middle to be a low arousal behavior, so that when my dogs go to middle, they know it's a good place to just chill. So next levels for middle would be, can you move around in middle? Which is like a fun kind of, I don't know, it's like a fun trick, and people at the park see me doing it with my dog and they're impressed, and I like that. So the way that I actually usually start this, both of my dogs prefer walking backwards in middle. They find it a little bit more difficult to go forward, so I will just lure with the treats on the front of the dog's nose and walk forward, and then I reward it each step. Your dog might sit, and if that happens, go ahead and lure them back up, and then just shift backward a tiny little bit, and when your dog does that nice little weight shift, you can mark and reward. Whoops. Yes, good job. It's okay to mark and reward halfway through a sit too, and then to bring them back into a stand. Okay, so I have a few questions here. What alternative do you recommend to an owner with balance issues? That's such a great question, Sylvia. So an owner with balance issues, I think this is a game that is pretty easy to adapt to a position that's better. So like I might have a short client with a tall dog, and in that case then middle might not be a safe or appropriate behavior for them. So a nice option for that is to have your dog come to your side. It doesn't have to be like a heel, it's more of just like a fun like stationing behavior where your dog can be right here. You can also play this with your dog coming to the front and like sitting in front of you. That's an option. I also really like a variation of this to have your dog come behind, which is also a really great behavior for reactive dogs, which I will be teaching and showing in my reactive dogs tricks class. So if you're interested in attending that, we'll be doing a little bit of behind and stationing like right behind your butt basically, which is an option for people who have mobility issues too. and dogs with short legs. Yeah, so one thing, when we're teaching this to really little dogs or dogs with short legs, think about lowering the pressure by maybe doing a little bit more squatting rather than leaning over them, because leaning over can be pretty high pressure situation and a little bit nerve-wracking for our smaller dogs. And then think about how you position your body when you're luring. So instead of leaning over like this like I might with Summer, maybe I'll just lean down with the small dog and drop the treat right by my foot. I find that for nervous or anxious dogs, definitely a little bit more of just follow the track. You don't need to follow my hand. Little dogs and nervous dogs already tend to be a little bit suspicious of people trying to lure them into situations they're not comfortable with. So use this as an opportunity to rebuild trust with your dog and listen to what they're telling you. If they're backing away, then you are putting too much pressure, then go back to just lots and lots of treats. People are way too stingy when they're trying to teach their dog a new behavior. Just feed your dog for engaging with you. Feed your dog for trying. Feed your dog for having a good time. How about starting on the floor? Hold on, I think I'm supposed to be definitely over time right now. I really appreciate the questions, but I am supposed to be only doing a 15-minute live. Thank you all for joining, and please check out our website and our classes and online offerings. Again, we have a webinar it's a 4-week class of reactive rover. We're doing a tips and tricks and cue behaviors for reactive dogs, like this behavior and a few others pretty soon, which is just an hour of learning 5 new behaviors that are really, really helpful for managing and working with your reactive dog out and about. And we are also offering a muzzle magic class, so 4 weeks of teaching your dog to happily wear their muzzle. And thank you so much for joining us, and have fun with your dog. Reward them a lot. You might not think it's a scary experience, but it might be for your dog. So invest in their engagement and invest in their joy. Have a good one.